Oh, hello again, everyone. It's TJ, the Stereo-Bargainphile, and I know you've already guessed it by now. I am very pumped up today to bring you all part 2 of my video review of Mission's very own Lx2-Mk2 two-way stand mount speaker. Now, before I jump into this, I highly recommend that you watch part 1 before watching part 2 today, because today all I'm going to go over real quickly is some specs, features, and size and dimensions of the Mission speaker, but then I've got to take you all in for a deeper dive inside, because let me tell you all something. There is this legendary engineer that don't get a lot of credit out in the audiophile community. You know, his name ain't plastered everywhere, but he has made some great designs when it comes to speaker. And I'm talking about no other than the director of acoustic design, Peter Comeau. Now, Peter Comeau, I actually owned a pair of his speakers about 3 years ago called the Wharfdale Diamond 220s, which I will tell you, the Mission Lx2-Mk2 do remind me of that, type of sound. Now, I know all those companies are under the same bannered logo, IAG. But anyways, I didn't get the A/B test, my Diamond 220s against the Mission. But one thing I can tell you all is that the engineers at Mission, I do not know how they pulled it off in this build quality of this speaker cabinet, with their drivers and tweeters. And check this out, you all. When I show you all, when I take you for a deeper dive inside, and I show you all the LinkWiz 4th order LinkWiz crossover that was built for this speaker, you're all going to be like, what? That is for a budget speaker, because it has 13 different components in it. That's right, you all, 13 different components. And when I was doing my measurements on the speaker cabinet, because I could not find nowhere online, how thick is the MDF board that the Mission's engineers used with this speaker. So the average measurement was 1 inch MDF. But in some places with this speaker cabinet, y'all, I measured 1.5 inches. So the speaker cabinet is very quiet. You don't get a lot of resonance sounds in this speaker cabinet. I mean, there's a lot of good bracing inside, but I am going to take out all the acoustic fillings and show you all a good look at the speaker at the very end. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Peter Comeau. Man, you're doing a great job. I know your name ain't out in the big spotlights in the audiophile community, which, it should be. Because for its price point, like I said in part 2, yes, these $470 US speakers at Electronic Express, they will compete with my speakers in the $600 and $700 price range. And nowadays, budget speakers in that price range, there's a lot of competition. I'm not saying the Mission speakers, outdone my $600 or $700 stand mount speakers. I have a lot of them. But, it will give them a good run for the money. I'd really like to check out the MK3 that's a little bit bigger. I mean, even these drivers with these neodymium magnets, I'll give you all a closer look just here in a minute, is pretty impressive. So now let's go ahead and jump into the size and dimensions of the Lx2-Mk2 Mission speaker. First off, the height is about 12 inches. For people over here in America. Now, if you live across the pond, that's going to be 305 millimeters. Now, when we talk about the width going from side to side, that is about 8 inches, what I would call wide. Or across the pond again, that is 200 millimeters. Now, when it comes to the depth of the speaker cabinet, the total depth is about 10 inches or 250 millimeters. Now, each one of these stand mount speakers, they come in weighing at 14 pounds, which, when I first grabbed a hold of them, they're a pretty small speaker. They're actually just a little bit smaller than my KEF Q100s. But they have very good weight to it because of that thick MDF board that the engineers at Mission used. And I know you all can see some bracing inside here. There is a lot of bracing inside of the speaker cabinet. Now let's get into the frequency response. The frequency response of the Mission speaker is from 55 Hertz up to 20 kilohertz. But when we're talking about bass extension, it goes down around 50 Hertz plus or minus 6 dB. Now when it comes to amplifier pairing, in my opinion, this is very crucial, like I was going over in part 2. But when it comes to amplifier pairing, you know, this speaker's nominal impedance is 8 ohms, but it drops down to a minimum impedance of 3.8 ohms. So make sure you know that your amplifier can handle that 4 ohm load. Now, one of my favorite amplifiers paired with the Mission was no other than my Pioneer Elite SXN30 2-channel high-res receiver that is Class AB at 85 watts, paired up very well with this speaker. Now, that was a $800, you know, high-res receiver. It was kind of expensive. And a lot of people said, TJ, why didn't you talk about your other amplifiers that you had that are $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 US? Why didn't you talk about that with the Mission speaker? Well, first off, I'm not going to recommend a $2,000 amplifier to drive a $400 or $500 speaker. That's why I didn't bring that up. But not this morning, but yesterday morning, a friend of mine has a Yamaha AS301. I actually had the AS801 about 3 or 4 years ago. But anyways, I took these speakers down to him yesterday, hooked them up to him, and asked him, you know, to tell me overall, did it sound good with the Yamaha AS301? Now note, the speakers that he does have now are actually the Andrew Jones budget tower speakers by Pioneer, the FS52s that I actually gave to him. Those speakers around $250 US and a really good deal. But when he hooked up his Yamaha AS301 to the Mission speakers, he's like, TJ, it sounded great. It had really good synergy together. So I ran down there. I took a couple of my CDs because he loves to spin the silver disc like me. And we were putting in everything from Noah Jones to Agnes and Julie Stone. And let me tell you all something, the Yamaha AS301, and that's a pretty cheap integrated amplifier, it done a great job with the Mission speakers. But overall, yes, I still prefer the Pioneer Elite SXN30. But what I'm trying to get to is when it comes to amplifier pairing, I would recommend an amplifier that, you know, is a little bit lively sounding. Not overly bright, but a little bit lively sounding. Will pair up great with these speakers. You know, it could be anywhere from the cool side of neutral to just a little bit of warmth amplifier, as long as it's a little bit lively. You just don't want a warm, smooth, relaxing sounding amplifier paired up with this speaker. Just wanted to go over that with you all very quick. Now, the crossover point in this speaker, going from the actual driver to the tweeter, is actually 3.2 kilohertz. Now, most speakers nowadays cross over like, what is it, 2.0, 2.5 kilohertz. They normally is the crossover point. But yes, Mission has the crossover point a little bit higher. So we're getting a little bit more in, you know, sound in our mid-range driver. That's why I was telling you all before, you know, the tweeter to me, compared to other speakers that I have that have a forward presentation that are very lively sounding, very revealing sounding, you know, the Mission compared to those speakers, to me, you know, it sounded a little bit dark in contrast. That's why I'm recommending an amplifier that has a little bit more liveliness to it. But anyways, that pretty much wraps that up. So now, let's go straight into taking a deeper dive inside the Mission Lx2-Mk2 two-way stand mount speaker. This is impressive, y'all. And before we get into this, I want to give a big shout out to American Audio and Video, a division of JM Industries, especially Joe, Natalia, and Cheryl. Thank you all so much for sending me these speakers on a loan lease agreement. So now, you all, let's get into this. Okay, you all, before I take you for a deeper dive inside of the speaker cabinet of the Mission Lx2-Mk2 two-way stand mount speaker, I want to give you all a good look at the speaker cabinet. And as you can see, Mission has done an inverted design. They were one of the first ones to do this. They actually use a 5-inch composite driver at the top, and then below it they have their tweeter which is a 1-inch microfiber dome tweeter. Pretty cool design speaker cabinet. You can see in the front, the edges are rounded off. And with this black, you all, when I take my hands and I like to feel my audio gear and speakers, it's got like this little rubberish feeling to it. I don't know if that helps with resonance, but I will tell you it helps dramatically with fingerprints. This speaker cabinet is not a speaker cabinet fingerprint magnet. Not at all. Now let's go to the back. Now here we are at the back of the speaker cabinet, and you can see we have our port in the back, and it's up at the top and behind that mid-range driver. And down at the bottom you can see we have our 5-way binding post. Here you go. I wanted to give you all a better view. Now check this out when I turn the light on and look through this base port. You see that little mesh they have right there? I know that helps with port shuffling, but also the Missions come with base port plugs, which is pretty cool. So now I do want to show you that the Missions do come with magnetic grill covers. And the magnetic grill covers does have the Mission logo on it. That is pretty cool to see on a budget speaker. Okay, first off, let's take a look at this 5-inch mid-range driver. So here we have the 5-inch driver. It's got the little Mission logo on it. Now I want to take you for a closer look at the spider and the coil. I will turn on the light. Here we have our nice size heavy-weighted neodymium magnet. Okay, now it's time to turn on some light. And yes, of course, we got a stamped steel basket. Okay, now I got the light in for you so you can see the spider. But if you actually look at this cone up in here, see how it has like 2 different cones? It has one here that is of smaller diameter. And that is what's hooking up to this coil inside. Here, let me show you all something. You will actually see there's a little hole right here. You can see that little hole in here right there to help cool it. And then you have coolers actually down in here on the coil itself. Watch when I move it. See if I can get that good enough. There y'all go. So that's cool that they got cooling ports in this driver, and it does have good weight to it. Now let's check out the tweeter. Boy, that is really tough getting that in. But you can see down here too, there's the voice coil in there. Now let's check out that tweeter. And here is actually the back of this microfiber dome tweeter. See, it says Mission on it. And they are using brass washers. That's good to see. And look how thick this cabinet is where they installed that. Not only that, you all, look in behind it, they actually added another brace. See this brace right here? They added that in behind it. Now I am getting ready to take out the acoustic filling and show you all this bracing inside. And then you can see here, they got some material in that port, which is really cool. But also, y'all, look at the front how the tweeter is mounted down with all these rubber grommets inside to hold that tweeter very well and not to get a lot of resonance. It is the same thing with their beauty ring that they use. Here is the actual beauty ring they use, and it's just not glued in. Here you can see on this side, all those little pegs around there, all pop into place with these little rubber inserts. That is really cool that this just wasn't glued in. Okay, you all, it's time to take a deeper dive inside. Check out the size of this crossover, you all, that was installed on a budget speaker. I mean, this is pretty impressive, you all. And actually, the engineers at Mission Audio call this their 4th order LinkWiz Riley crossover. And it does have 13 components all together in this crossover. We have a couple resistors, we have a couple capacitors, Even got one hiding over here on the side. And then we have some copper core inductors. Pretty good size for a budget speaker. And one up here at the top too, I will show you. But another really cool thing that the Mission audio engineers done is they connected the crossover straight to the 5-way binding post. They didn't use any kind of internal cabling to jump from the 5-way binding post to the crossover. So now let's look at the back of the crossover. Okay, here we are at the back of the crossover, you all. On this side again is for the woofer, and this other side is for the tweeter. Now I want to get this in really good for you all, because you can see the 5-way binding posts are connected straight to the crossover. You don't see this every day. So I'm going to get this in good for you all. There you go. That is pretty cool. Peter Comeau, you done an awesome job with this speaker. And I know you had a budget price to build this speaker to. And you done a wonderful job. It's just kind of crazy to me, you all, because I have a lot of budget speakers and none of them have a crossover this size. Now I will say the cabling going to the mid-range driver over here, it does connect. It's got little connectors, but actually the tweeter cabling runs straight to the tweeter and it's soldered. So now let's go take a deeper dive inside of the speaker box. Okay, you all, it is time to take a deeper dive inside of the speaker cabinet of the Mission to check out all the bracing. But first, I want to share with you all, look at all this acoustic filling that came out of this small stand mount speaker. Then in behind it, here are the speaker grills, magnetic speaker grills. I wanted to show you both sides. Then here is our 1-inch or 25mm microfiber dome tweeter. Now let's go inside and check out all the bracing. As you can see from here with the port, the engineers put some mesh there. And talking about bracing, check out this bracing on the very top and the corners that you see here in front of you all. When I measured this top piece and the actual speaker cabinet, it was 1.5 inches thick. And then we got braces on both of the far back corners. And then of course we have 2 braces running across from side to side. Lots of bracing. Even the tweeter in the front has some extra bracing down here I will show you. There you go. We'll go on this side. And then if we go back up and look at the top right in the front, we'll see even more bracing at the top. And then even down here in the bottom corner, you can see some bracing down there. And then if you look down here to the cabling that runs to the tweeter, you can see it is soldered together. And then they use like a heat shrink tape around it. Very, very cool. But yeah, Mission Audio done a very good job of dampening out this speaker cabinet from having a lot of resonance. But that pretty much wraps it up for me, you all. So until next time, this is TJ, the Stereo-Bargainphile. And if you have any questions at all, just ask me down in the comment section.